And hello. I'm Dan Lutz, and welcome to another broadcast. Today is June 28th. No, the all month of June is just almost gone. 2019, and it's your Friday. And welcome to WWG1WGA.LOVE, where we go one, we go all. Love. Front lines. This is the front lines, and what we're doing here is presenting what's going on in the world, going back into the past, how we got here, where we're going, and we cover many topics. So, first I'd like to again thank those people who've been joining and signing up at the website www.1wga.love. That's a .love domain, and I am looking for those that would like to participate and work on laying out articles and posting there. So, I am going to start broadcasting this particular segment, front lines, from the actual another YouTube channel. And the Dank Live will remain here on this channel, and that way we'll be operating on two fronts, right? And just in case for some reason we lose this particular one, so we can look forward to that. I was about to implement it the other day, but of course then I had issues with internet and so on and so on. So I figured I would. I'm still going to do that, but maybe I'll start with that tomorrow. Let's see, any other things. So I've been trying to catch up on particular news and things like that, and mostly in what I've been kind of catching up with is a cryptocurrency, and Bitcoin hitting 13,000, and I've known it's going to go to 15 at this point before it has a major pullback. And this is one of its stair steps that it's going to be going through to get up to 30,000, 50,000, 100,000, $1 million, $10 million a coin, and so on. And Of course, it's not going to be at $10 million a coin for a couple of years, but literally that's going to go by like that. So this is when we look at technologies and things like that, this is one of the major front lines that we have to look at. And I am not ready to basically avoid using this technology as it being some big plot to and in the camp of the bad guys, right? I want to use this technology for the betterment of everyone. It is, as with all technology, can be used for good or bad. Money is a technology. It can be used for good or for bad, and it's been used for bad a lot. Everything is set up as a system of control, and we're really looking at how do we move beyond this. I've been when you look at any technology, the first technology on the block becomes the big one, right? And Bitcoin is it. There are other technologies that have come out. Ethereum, I'm not impressed. And it's okay. It's came out with the concept of smart contracts. That's okay. But the technology itself is poorly designed, in my opinion. Just looking back a year ago, and there being 2 major hacks resulting in the loss of a lot of people's money. So there's other things about it. It's very rudimentary, things like that. It's fine. It works, but it's kind of come in as number, even though it may have more users than Bitcoin right now. It is not going to remain up there. Bitcoin will continue to rise, and Ethereum will fall back to number 2 and number 3 as other technologies start filling in. So a lot of this, we've been talking about blockchain technologies, and there's newer technologies that I've been looking at. One is Hashgraph. I think this is a very good technology from a concept. It actually is many times better than the fastest out there, and also has a very deep reach, right? So you can do programming of it. So this is going to be something that's going to be coming about over the next year. So this is one of the front lines in technology. So other front lines in technology that we're looking at is we've been looking at what's been going on in the social media world. And I've been talking about the core technology and where it came from. And there is another interview with Michael McKibben and with Thomas Gabriel on American Intelligence Media. And I'm going to play a segment of that for you. It's about 18 minutes in. It's new. It's just come out. Let me go. I'm going to line it up right now, and I'll share my screen with you. And share. So this is again, this was just published on June 28th, and I encourage you to go ahead and listen to the whole thing. I'm basically just going to skip to about 18 minutes in, and what they're talking about is this core technology that was literally stolen by government spies, basically U.S. government spies. Literally, for the purpose of stealing the technology, they were brought into. They made themselves available, as they were supposedly presenting themselves as a way to move this company forward and to get big. They were substantial people that were in these positions, and they ended up stealing. As we've come to find out, is that this is the only way things are done. They pick and take any of the technologies. If you get a patent or don't get a patent, and it's just trade secrets. They will steal it, and they have many ways of doing it. So, all right, let's start right here. We're only gonna play about 10 minutes of it.
Then they literally created monopolistic agreements with many of these individuals from Silicon Valley, but they allowed all of that to go directly into the government and into the military. And so we use those very systems in the government, and the government owes for that use because they don't have the source code. So right now, July 11th, Trump is calling into his office, exactly as we suggested, all of the head people for social media. And he's going to talk about the fact that they're not being honest, that they are attacking conservatives, that they are censoring, that they are not a platform, that they are a publisher, and that they are publishing only democratic materials. And he literally used the term, they rigged the election in 2016 and they're trying to do it again. Now, we said that if he calls all of them into the office and he simply holds up the material, the Miller Act notice, which you've sent in, which also shows all of the proofs of what we're talking about, and he simply says to them, I would like a copy of your original source code that created Facebook. Because you know why I want a copy? Because it's version 1.1. I have 1.0 because Leader Technologies is going to sell, well, whatever, give me the control of it.
Assign the rights to the intellectual property.
So he would own the source code.
He wouldn't own it. He would be assigned it.
Okay, so he'd control it.
Right.
Okay, and then he would be able to control all of them subsequently because they would all have to sign user agreements to use the original source code because they're using 1.1, but they never paid for 1.0. Did I get that right?
Well, by doing what you're suggesting or what you're describing there, by assigning the rights to our patent and to our intellectual property to the president and to the executive branch, we basically allow him to one-up the entire Silicon Valley, which has a stolen version of it, and therefore it's ill-gotten gain. And so the president, in one fell swoop, can take charge of, and essentially, I think probably you could say, nationalize the rights to get everybody legal in using various types of social networking. But he can also then immediately order that all of the elements and components of this technology must conform to the Bill of Rights. And in its simplest form, that's what we've got to do.
So no surveillance.
That'll mean different things in different circumstances, depending on what the inventory of the existing system tells us needs to happen. In some cases, you can fix what's there. Sometimes you're going to have to replace it with embedded hardware that's got these mechanical engines built in and these back doors in. You might have to replace the chips and or the processors. But there's how that works out. It starts with, we're going to have a system that honors the Bill of Rights, which we've never had. We've never had in the history of technology, because what we're seeing now is this hijack of cryptography specifically goes back to 1919 and has carried forward ever since then, right through World War II and the big 46 agreement of the Inner Sanctum in London. And now we're looking at documents that the NSA has just released, like in 2017, which is a history of cryptography in the government. And now we're looking at contracts that IBM had with IBM and NCR and Kodak had with our war effort in World War II that has continued on right to this day. And in fact, they're still redacting elements of this document some 40 or some 75 years later. That tells you something right there.
And this has become very topical right now because of Five Eyes, because of the Crown Gate, because of British Gate, the British spying and intervening and meddling in the election, as well as continuously to try to, in fact, overthrow a sitting president of the United States. So we can see that goes on. Now, can you explain how it is that once you give Donald Trump the ultimate trump card, which is basically the control of Leader Technologies IP, which is all legal and completely legal, then all of the people in the downstream from that, who basically used later versions of it, are going to have to comply with President Trump holding control of Leader Technologies IP. So at that point, they couldn't surveil anymore. They couldn't sell your data. They couldn't, commercialism couldn't come in. The weaponization couldn't take effect. George Soros and the Atlantic Council would be kicked out of Facebook, and Eric Schmidt wouldn't be able to do his U.S. digital news, and Dragonfly couldn't happen, and on and on and on and on, all in one fell swoop. Now that makes me so happy.
Describing heaven, Douglas.
Yeah, I'm getting so happy. A minute ago, I was ready to just say, wait, I don't get happy very often, but I'm getting really happy to think that Trump has the ultimate trump card for those fake cardboard cutout cyber warlords of Silicon Valley.
Well, when you as a software company license your technology to a customer, typically in those agreements is a representations and warranties clause that where you claim to hold sufficient rights to actually license the product. In other words, you're saying, I own the rights, or I actually own the code that I'm licensing to you, and that everything's above board and legal. Every company on the planet has that. And each of these companies has made that representation to the American government. I am sure. I haven't looked at all the contracts, but it's a very common clause. So what we're saying, Mr. President, is that any of these people that license, give you a license or sign a license and represent or warrant to the government that they own the rights to resell their services is lying to you, and in fact is defrauding you, then if you actually are the ones that hold the rights that they're claiming to, you've got a fraud claim against every provider of technology to the government. That is a huge power. And so to get it right, everyone's going to have to start coming to the government and completely recasting their license agreement and getting essentially the president's permission to continue business.
And the president has, through the, what is it called, the Common Policy Committee, has the ability to tell the IT directors of each of his cabinet members, each one cabinet member has IT director, and they sit on a committee and they vote each year to give a lease, to give the crypto keys, not only for all corporations, but also for the entire military. And it's given to private corporations. At first, it was a British
it's called a certificate authority.
Mm-hmm. The PKIs, the public
key infrastructure,
or the Federal Bridge Certification Authority.
Bridge.
All these names that we would, just basically occlude and conflate and confabulate and confuse. Just so the Common Policy Committee is a tax on every person on the internet. So when you tell me that I'm supposed to believe the delusion that there is no internet, it's everybody's computer working together magically, and that nobody owns it, there are no wires that actually connect the internet, it's mysteriously connected to the cloud. These are all lies. We can give the president the power through the Miller Act notice and accepting the control of Leader Technologies IP to manipulate Silicon Valley into coming around to stop being criminals, or either close. Either one, doesn't matter. Go away or comply, and also pay taxes or get out of our country. And this also takes back the internet. The internet was DARPANet at first. It was a weaponized military contractor communication device. That's what we started it with. I know, I was around in those days. And what's happened is it got out of control and it got weaponized, and corporations started, the cardboard cutout Silicon Valley cyber kings started to act like they really can write code, or that they really can do things. I mean, the only people I know are some of the people early on from PayPal who wrote those programs, Eric Schmidt. And Eric Schmidt came out of Bell Labs. Besides that, McAfee, all of them, CrowdStrike, the people, Sean Henry, all those people are fake, and that they really, absolutely, like a terrible Mark Zuckerberg robot, like an Elon Musk imbecile, they don't know anything, and they show it every time they open their mouth. So what we need to do is put them all in their place and say, sorry, you stole the technology, and you need to disgorge. And you don't get to just say, now in the public, everyone is saying all at once, and when everyone all at once in mainstream media says it, it's a lie, and it came from ISIS Management Company, which controls Avid, which controls what the prompters tell mainstream media to read. And so when they say, oh, it's time to break up Google, it's time to break up Facebook, it's time to break up the big Silicon Valley, blah, blah, blah. Remember, Eric Schmidt, the smartest one of all, what did he do? He already jumped ship, created a new company called Alphabet, even got out of that and got control of Magnavox and Boston Dynamics, the two groups that are building the robot warriors. In other words, he is a robot warrior king. And he is as evil as he can be. He developed Dragonfly himself while he was over in China. And now 3 million Muslims are being killed in China right now as we speak because of it. 1 million already dead, 3 more million lined up to be killed. I forget how many millions lost their rights already. And Eric Schmidt comes back to America and says, oh, no, I didn't really develop Dragonfly. It won't be ready for years. No, it's already happening here in America, folks. So if we don't wake up, and if we don't stop the Silicon Valley warlords, we're not only going to lose the election and Trump won't be elected again, but we will lose all freedom of speech. We will lose any freedom that we have in America because that is the plan at this point. The plan is...
we are prepared to assign the legitimate rights to social networking to the president so that he can completely turn the tables on these power mongers, and with the objective of implementing the Bill of Rights in our technology lives, because I think what we'll see is a lot of cascading positive benefits out of that as this technology becomes a tool for human beings to express their creativity, their God-given creativity, rather than a tool of oppression to sap that creativity out of individuals, which is what's happening now. And thankfully, that's becoming more obvious to more people.
So, Michael, we have discussed this. We don't want Google to be broke up. We don't want Facebook to be broken up because they'll just become 7 companies.
So I stop it there for a moment. At that point, the whole point is not to break up those companies. But let me do a recap because this next point that they're going to is the disgorgement. And I want to just catch up on some things. One, they can give all of the source code control to Trump. Not the government, but Trump. He will then be able to execute through the office of the presidency using all of his heads of his departments that go ahead and give permissions, these leases to the crypto keys for the internet, to these big companies. That gives him direct control and authority over the technology. And that it must be done. It must be done because they are going to completely try to steal away this next election. So this is one of the points where it's so important to understand is that the technology was all came from one company that solved a problem, a very big problem, and it was basically scalability. So I can move my video from this computer to that computer, right? But how do you have 1 million computers share that one video? They solved that problem. And when they solved that problem, they also realized that this would come out of it, and this would come out of it, and this would come out of it, and this one, and they put all of those together into one package, which we would call social media. this included the security keys. How do you, all these websites have to have a security certificate, right? That little lock symbol up in the corner in the browser. It says, hey, this is a secure site. It's a security certificate, meaning that no one can steal that domain away because it has to go through this one channel, which is then a fee paid to Hillary. These technologies all put together and then put into a source code that was then they were going to take and market and bring this into the world. But they brought on board a general that became an advisor, then CEO, who brought on a member of the CIA or military intelligence. I forget which one it was, and then they proceeded to set things up to take this technology and distribute it. And they used IBM to send this technology out, and then they put all of their cardboard cutouts. They're basically saying all of these tech giants are not legitimate, right? Because they are just put into place to represent something. Everything from Elon Musk to Mark Greenberg to say that they were all just put there in place to represent. They can't write code. They're not the creators of this. They are the ones put up there to create this imaginary environment of an economy, which is all out there into the stock market and how they get billions of dollars. And when they make things so expensive, it puts things so out of reach of normal people. And they want to give this control to Trump. And this is highly important that Trump takes them up on the offer and accepts the power. So now what do you do with it? Their solution is not to break up these tech giants, not to do it. Keep them whole, but change how they operate. Change the people in charge, because a lot of people there were responsible for stealing technology, right? So and everything else on top of that. So this also prevents them from breaking up into many smaller companies that become big again, right? Because go to the stock market, they trade amongst each other. So instead of if they break it up into 10 companies, they're now 10 times richer. Is that really the punishment? Well, the punishment is removing them from power and then using what they created as a new system and to implement the Bill of Rights into this technology. Place it in the hands of the executive branch of that. Now, they're giving it to Trump, so how it translates there is that something that's done in the future, whatever. And so they're going to give this control to Trump, and then what they want to do is not have them break it up, but to do this disgorgement. So we'll carry on. It's only a few more minutes. We'll cover it and see what disgorgement is.
That make an equal amount of money, each one of them. That's the way that it works. So
reminds me of a sci-fi movie where you stab one of those aliens and cut them all up, and then each of the parts grows into another alien.
That's exactly what it is. We saw it with Standard Oil. We've seen it with AT&T or Ma Bell and so on and so forth. Now, tell people, what is a better option? Disgorgement. Can you explain that to people?
Well, disgorgement means that if you're in one of these tech companies that has made all its profits on ill-gotten gains, stolen property, then you need to turn that cash back in and let that cash then flow to the rightful owners of that property. If somebody steals your car and has the benefit of it and you discover it, then you get your property back, and then you get damages. So that's what occurred here. It's just intellectual property. It's not physical property. And our shareholders invested their hard-earned dollars to help us build a technology team that could invent this scalable social networking, and they deserve their reward. And until I think the president has a good opportunity here to also send a strong message to the what's turning out to be utterly corrupt U.S. Patent Office that is turning around and stealing patents, and in fact has given sovereignty of our patenting process to the British company Serco. I mean, how much worse can you get? And so what he's doing by taking care of our Miller Act notice is telling companies and inventors, we're going to start respecting property in this country and stop allowing these corruptocrats, who the shadow government, to steal everything they want and then rig the court system so you can't protect yourself, which is what's happening right now.
Okay, so that's what he's talking about. So we're looking at through the Miller Act notices that he's putting out there that they would have to return all the ill-gotten gain to Leader Technologies. All of that money would now have to be going through Leader Technologies. Isn't that appropriate? Instead of breaking them up as the punishment and letting them get 10 times richer, or however many companies get formed out of it. You're talking about many different companies, each one split into how many, and so on. So it would be something that would still give them control, right? Because it's under. So what they need to do is lose control, and then while it's in this behemoth state, allow it to go ahead and implement the Bill of Rights. So this would also, again, as he said, restore the aspect of private property, of intellectual property, and people being able to rely on the patenting system. I have 2 patents. Can I rely on that technology for building up? If I want to challenge someone that is using it, can I rely on that anymore? No, because if it's the government that's using it, and it actually is encryption patents, the government is using it, then I'm fighting the government. In reality, so is it going to be very possible for me to actually have a good outcome? And how long? Michael McKibben's been in had his lawsuits going on for 17 years. He won, got up to the Supreme Court, and they threw it back down to the lower courts and said, "Oh, we need more information." So this is this is something that needs to be moved forward, and this is also our way out. This is the front line. So we need to help move this information out there, spread this video. Please subscribe to the Where We Go One, We Go All.love website. I appreciate everyone that's joining me there and contributing. Even $1.11 a month is very much appreciated. And the other thing is the new channel I'll be starting. I think we'll do it tomorrow. That we will have 2 channels. In other words, you'll have to subscribe and have notifications for both. And we'll see what happens. We'll start getting some feedback on whether or not the other one is working for notifications and so on, and see how that works out. All right, for right now, I'm going to go ahead and give the link to everybody. If anyone would like to join me and join the conversation, we can talk about this further. I'm going to put it first in the WWG1 WGA Telegram group. And now I'll go to bring up this front lines. Make smaller for the moment. There we go. Yes. Put the link in there for everyone. You're welcome to join me there on either one. And now I'll go ahead and I'll share my screen, and we'll talk about if you have any questions to answer. Yeah. And of course, the very first one is a question from M. Carlson. Dan, we need to drop the FISA reports and end this. Well, I understand the sentiment, but I do think, just like as I saw, this was a way in which it gave ammunition to Trump. And when he went to meet with the Queen in England, and he ended up signing some agreements, what did he get out of it? He had loaded barrels, were set and ready to go with the FISA declassification. He had all of the Justice Department set up and ready to go, 100,000 sealed indictments. They have, he also met with the Prime Minister of Japan the week before, and lined up things there. He brought on Kim Jong-un as like, me too, and he started tweeting and lining himself, even though some deep state characters in North Korea ended up firing some missiles. They were not the big missiles. They were the small ones, just to rattle the saber. So this ammo is very important. There's no need to fire right now. It's there to be fired when they're ready, and I do not know when that is. There's a lot of dates that are put out there. So maybe it's the 4th of July now. Who knows? Or it's the 3rd of July. So on the 4th. Anyway, we shall see how this comes up. All right, we'll continue. Oh, and I got someone. Hello, a TBC diehard from Uganda. Hello. Okay, let's continue. Remember, put a Q and then the question, so I don't, when I'm scanning through, it's easy for me to pick them out. I tend to read the larger ones, longer, it's not larger. Let's see if it's worth talking about and on topic. What does writing code mean? Writing code is computer language code. C programming is a form of writing code. There's many languages out there. When you're talking about writing code for, let's say, a computer system, you're probably going to write in C++. If you're writing for the internet, you're going to be writing in JavaScript and Perl. And many others. There's tons of different languages, and some just take advantage of a certain little nuance, and they fill a void. But though that's what writing code means. There's even writing code where it's where you're doing assembly, and some people can write at that level. But there's no words, like where I'm reading words in text. There, you're just writing out letters that represent things to the computer and moving data based upon the letters that you're sending. Usually 2 letters. It would be like, it could numbers and letters. So it would be 0 through 9, and then A through F would be a 16-bit language. So there, that's super. Let's see. Great moments to everybody. Yeah, I remember when Michael McKibben first met with AIM for Truth, Aim for Truth. It's about time he and his teams of investors will be paid for their work. That is it. He should be paid. Everyone, as an investor, should now benefit, and that would be quite a bit. We're talking about trillions. We literally are talking about they should have earned trillions by now. Unless they're giving everyone the kind of health care they all get, I highly doubt it. I don't know what that means. But I'm not for giving health care. I'm not for the government giving anything, because if they're involved, they will corrupt it and use it against us. The reason why we have expensive health care is because of insurance. If there was no insurance, health care would be affordable. Why? Why is because the government has government insurance. This actually creates the system, the basis at which the things will be done, and keeps things escalating in cost. The government should not be involved in any sort of social programs, right? These social programs lead to government involvement, and they corrupt it. There's no choice, because you're going to elect people that are going to be, through their own self-interest, putting things in place that they're paid to do by people with money. Who wrote the Obamacare? It was the insurance industry, for them to make money. It's not for them to give everybody health care. The ones that they don't want to have health care, they will put them on death lists. So this is something that is something to realize, is that we can't give a mechanized environment a control over us. It's another form of AI. Government bureaucracies will just have the wheels turn. We can't allow them to do that to us. Okay. I think we've got to the bottom. Oh, here's some questions at the very bottom. Fiji, Kim going dark. I do not know what that means. Where'd that come from? Okay. Well, I guess that's good for now. I'll be back in about 45 minutes with Dank Live. We'll see if we get an update from Tui. Also, don't know if that we will hear from him at that time, but it is possible. We should be looking forward to having things progress, even if we don't make it all the way to the end, but at least conversation and moving things forward. And I think we're there, and it will spread from there. So with that, we'll see how things go. Sorry, I was just changing a few things here before I sign off. So, all right, we will catch you either tomorrow or next day. Be sure to go and subscribe to WWG1WGA.LOVE, Frontlines.